And welcome back to Under Center with Kirk Cousins. And Kirk, we have a very special group in here today. The three amigos I get to work with most of the week on the power trip. Chris Hawkey from left to right, the one and only Chris Hawkey, who you're very familiar with.
Absolutely.
The one and only Paul Meat Sauce Lambert. Say hello, Paul.
Hi, I'm really excited to be here. This is literally the highlight of my day. I'm not kidding. I'm so pumped.
And the leader of the pack, Corey Cove, of course. I laughed out loud in your post-game news conferences when you were quoting Michael Scott from The Office. And I think this is a pretty good way to kick things off, since Corey in particular is an Office aficionado, and this has been one of your favorite shows.
Oh yeah.
Well,
they asked me, do you feel like you take too much blame? And it's like, well, you're the quarterback, so it's going to happen. You understand, you expect it. But yeah, I'd love to be Michael Scott. And as he says when he makes the Willy Wonka mistake in the golden ticket, and says, I want to be honest with you, David, I'd like to take all the credit and none of the blame. And I can resonate with that. I mean, sure, we'd all like that, but it's okay. Part of the business, I guess.
I still think we have to facilitate a three-way office battle between you, me, and Kentrell Brothers.
And by battle, you mean just straight up trivia?
Yeah, some kind of a trivia.
Yeah.
So
I would
we
love
have
that.
to find an objective Office fan that knows what questions wouldn't be impossible, that all three of us could get, and then truly figure out who of the three of us knows.
We hit a touchdown pass. It might have been against the Raiders, and I'm just sitting on the bench, and Kentrell walks by and looks at me and just goes, Perfektenschlag. And he walks away and just stays in character. And again, you'd have to know The Office to know the reference, but it's just perfect. And so actually, Kentrell and I are working on some of the handshakes that Michael has with Daryl Philbin.
Yeah.
And they do like the Star Trek handshake, and then they turn the wheel.
And the fluffy fingers.
Yeah, I thought some of that would be good, to do between him and I after a touchdown.
Well, Kirk, I forget who it was, too, but didn't, what team was it? Somebody from like the Niners or the Rams or something a couple years ago did the Scarn in the end zone. They did the dance as a touchdown celebration. It was
really?
genius.
I didn't see that.
I don't remember who that was,
That's
though.
pretty good. I love it.
You guys should practice that.
When did were you a fan almost from when it first was on the air, or just reruns?
I think what's cool about when you're an Office fan from the beginning is when it got to the very end, which was like 2013, you went back in time in your own life and thought about the show when you were watching it. Like for me, I was a junior in high school watching early episodes, and then watching all the way through college and early in my pro career. A lot of people now will watch it, but they'll just bang it out on streaming in like 3 weeks, and it's like that's not the same meaning as someone who sat there for 8 years and watched it. So I think the people who watched it from the get-go have a different loyalty to it.
Well, you often refer to yourself, you did in fact after the game on Sunday, as the CEO of
Try to be.
Yeah, try to be the CEO. Michael Scott didn't quite have that same success as the CEO.
Mid-level manager. And
David Wallace was the CEO.
Okay, let's get this right
Stay out
here.
of this.
Yeah. So Michael was a mid-level manager who struggled at that. Really in corporate America, you get the guys who are really good at sales, and they get promoted to manager. It's like, no, they just needed to stay in sales. That's what they were good at. They're not good at managing people. And that was the Michael Scott joke from day one. So.
Well, I always think of quarterbacks and NFL players aren't people, that you don't have the same taste that many of us do in TV shows or movies or whatever it is. But The Office ranks number one for you. Yeah,
I then love Parks and Rec, which was a very similar show, similar style. Greg Daniels was one of the creators who was also very involved with The Office, but have really struggled since then to find a show. And I've kind of put the call out there to my teammates to find me a good show. What are you guys?
If you like those two, you should try Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Okay.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I'm familiar. Andy Samberg.
Yeah, very good.
Terry Crews.
Veep. If you haven't started,
Veep. I've been recommended Veep, and I haven't done it.
It's brilliant from top to bottom.
Okay.
Every episode.
It is.
Every episode.
Well, we got a bye week coming up, so it'd be the time to try it out.
Just finished that up.
Yes.
Last year I hated to see that show go.
Yeah.
It was too good.
So good.
Yeah. So. Go ahead.
And if you're looking for dramas, you got Westworld, which is obviously quite good.
I've heard about that one.
I'd encourage you to watch Yellowstone if you're a Kevin Costner guy. It's just a fantastic show.
I'm up on Costner.
Oh, so good. That's one of the most underappreciated shows on television. And Corey likes a couple of different shows.
Way out there. I'm not really a way out there guy.
How much time do you have to watch anything during the
season?
season?
Not much, yeah. Tuesdays I take completely off. So Tuesday I will sometimes. But, with two boys at home, it's hard to get the time away, especially when I've been gone at work all week, and then I come home and my wife's like, all right, now you've got to handle the kids because I've been handling them for 6 days. So
Handoff.
part of life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, what were your guys' thoughts yesterday going through the game? Where were you, first of all? Were you in the stadium? Were you at home? Were you?
I was at the stadium.
Yeah.
I was
Are
at
you
the
there
stadium.
for most home games?
All.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Corey and I are. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm at the station because so on the road games, I'm with you
Yeah,
guys
right,
on the road,
right.
and for the home games, I'm back at the station. So
Okay.
it's a totally different thing. But my goodness, man, it was so weird because there seemed to be nothing we could do right in that first half,
Correct.
offense or defense. Right?
Special teams.
Special
It was
teams.
every
Oh my
phase.
gosh, yeah, true, right.
It was every phase. When we fumbled the kickoff, I just thought, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
When I fumbled, when penalties, they kind of kept their drives alive, or vice versa, that we hit a big play and then we had a penalty, call it back. It was odd how many things were piling on.
Right.
That were just, it was like statistically significant to have that many happen in one quarter or one half.
You ever been through something like that before?
The only other time was a similar comeback. We got down 24-0 in my fourth year of my career, but that was in the first half, and we cut it to 24-7 before halftime. So this was actually a more difficult comeback to be down 20 instead of 17 with just the second half left. But we ended up coming back in that one too, 130, and then that was the game where I yelled, "You like that?"
Yeah, that's right.
So
Okay,
I
yeah.
should have had some rant ready for this one too, and made it a comeback thing to have some crazy rant, but I didn't have anything for him this time.
Well, you've always said you're pretty good at silencing the noise outside, the outside noise inside the walls here at TCO. But there was a lot of noise. You heard the boos.
Rightfully
halftime.
so.
Yeah,
I was booing myself. But you know what? Our fans stayed there, and I had a couple family members at the game, and they've been to a lot of our games. And they said to me, "Have you ever heard it as loud as it was after Diggs caught the touchdown?" And then the camera went to him on the sideline, and he was trying to get everybody going. How loud it got? He said, "Have you ever heard it that loud?" They said our ears were hurting with how loud it was, and so that goes to show people stayed in their seats. They stayed with us, and it paid off because I do believe the noise made a difference on the final drive for the Broncos. When you get that close to the end zone to score, and they were unable to. Some of that has to do with communication issues and substitution issues and trying to get everybody where they need to be. And when you are that loud, I think it makes a difference. And so kudos to our crowd.
Well, there was a lot of noise in social media in the first half as
there
well.
was.
And I have a sample of some of the things, just some of the things that were being said, and understandably so. I mean, you're getting your butt kicked 20-0, and let's see. Let me
See,
pick
25 years ago, these people would just say this on their couch to
right.
their
Absolutely.
brother-in-law.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But
right.
now
it's all out there.
now I get to hear it.
And they don't go away. Let's see. The first one, a guy named Meat Sauce.
Oh, whoa.
Here,
Oh, no.
Bills game all over again, referring to, of course, the Bills game here from a year ago when Buffalo came in here. And
You keep your eyes up, mister.
In Sauce's defense, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and I
I
don't
said,
know.
"Here we go. Here we go."
I try not to. I pretty much bandwagon play to play, but
Welcome to the life of a fan.
Right when I watched, I'm like, this is hideous.
Yes.
What's happening here?
in your defense, you do this all the time, though. Some of it's a bit when you kind of throw things out there. Some of it's realistic, like when you said this game is over.
Yeah, I think I said that. I think at one point when they fumbled the kickoff, I think I tweeted, "This is over for the fourth time," and then I think I sent the gif of the Rocky guy saying, "Throw the damn towel," and then I jumped back on when that.
We'll get to that in a little bit.
It was just like Buffalo, though, because I remember that game. We had come off of a very emotional game at Lambeau Field.
Right.
We then had a short week to get ready for a team that was really good in the Rams. And I think we just kind of got caught in this trap of not bringing everything we had to the table for that game with our focus. I mean, it wasn't I'm going to throw my helmet in, but it takes every piece of focus to be able to perform at a high level, and we didn't have it that day. And I just felt the same thing. We said it all week long. We said they're 3-6. They have a different quarterback in than what they started the season with, and we're going to allow that to creep in after coming out of an emotional win in Dallas. We're back home in a more comfortable setting. We can't let it creep in, but it inevitably does somehow. And I was uneasy all week about it, and then with the way the half started, I thought, you got to be kidding me.
Well, a couple other tweets that were sent out there. This is from Pro Football Talk. I mean, one of your favorite guys, Mike Florio, who's a frequent guest with Paul Allen on his program. All capitals, K-U-R-T. Kurt is back. Kurt is back. Okay, then follow that up by, I think, a few minutes later with Mike Florio. The Vikings look to have started their bye week a week early. So, again, that's kind of the easy shot when you're down 20-0. Understandable. That's the way it works. Colin Coward wrote, Viking fans will tweet me, show some respect, but this 20-0 home deficit doesn't shock me. Good defensive coordinators can give Kirk Cousins trouble, can never truly trust Minnie. So, I mean, this is Pat Royce, Purple Faithful, who we mad at? Well, that's pretty standard, I would think. And then Paul Charchian wrote, Viking fans correctly booing the Vikings for another dump-off pass, this time on a 3rd and 19. One of the questions I get is when you had you drew the team, I think Denver jumped off sides, you got a free play.
Right.
And people are asking me, why not just throw the ball long at that point?
Sure.
Probably no one going, what's the reason?
Yeah, I think, first of all, should have. So let's just say that I should have thrown it long. Secondly, when Von Miller's coming unevaded, I'm thinking about a lot of things right now. I'm thinking, all right, did they blow the whistle? They should have. They didn't. All right, did they throw a flag? Because if they don't throw a flag, I, first of all, can't throw it downfield. And secondly, if they miss the call, I got a guy coming free here. So I'm worried about where's Von Miller? Did they throw a flag? And then I'm looking at Diggsy because I'm going, he's my home run threat.
Right.
And they had clouded him. So 31 had gone over the top. So I'm like, all right, I can throw a pop fly, but I saw a hammer. I said, I'm just going to get the ball out of my hand, avoid the possible sack if they didn't throw the flag because I couldn't see it.
So you didn't even see the flag?
So, no, I didn't see. You really have to look to the sideline, one or the other. Right. You see Rodgers do it a lot when he gets some to jump. He literally will look left, and then he'll go into his drop. It's a little bit easier from the shotgun because you're already further back and you can see more. And a lot of times when Aaron does it, he's in the shotgun. And then secondly, it's a little bit easier when a nose guard or a 3 technique is the one that jumps because you can see him right here and you can feel it a little more easily, and they aren't going to be unevaded. Even if they jump, your guard or your center is right there to double team them and take care of it. So a defensive end, unevaded, under center, it was kind of a recipe to say it just didn't feel right. That being said, still should have chucked it down the field. In hindsight, I knew it right away, but we didn't.
Well, Von Miller's coming at me. I'm thinking about wanting to be around my family at Thanksgiving, too. So, Paul Allen wrote for worst half of Vikings football all season, not even close. Said it all week at 9 to noon. Best defense we've played all season. There's nothing happening.
We said that all week, too. We said it's the best defense statistically, and just when you look at the scheme and what they do and how they frustrate you. We knew that, but we just weren't. Nothing was working. I mean, we had a 3rd and 1 that got stuffed on a run. We had a 3rd and long we didn't get, took a sack, and then we had the fumble on the drop back. So it was a number of things.
As we fast forward to the second half tweets after the game is now over, first one I see is, what a win! Meat sauce. I mean, you didn't hesitate.
Man, I was just in awe of the second half of that football game. I'm telling you, though, I said it on the radio this morning. That pass you threw to Diggs was the best pass thrown all day yesterday by anybody. And I was just in awe to be in the same building as you two watching that play.
Okay, settle down.
That was a fun one.
Paul Charchian wrote, this is an interesting stat we can talk about. Kirk Cousins has thrown 177 passes without an interception. That's the longest active streak in the NFL and the longest by a Viking in 24 years. We'd be pretty proud of that stat. Did you know that?
I didn't, but
Hey.
I'm sure that if we don't start hot against the Seahawks, Mike Florio and Colin Cowherd are going to be saying I suck.
Don't forget about me.
Well, Kirk, let me ask you about Charge, because Charge was maybe the most vocal person in the Twin Cities before you came here. He was begging the Vikings to go get you in free agency, and obviously he's a staunch defender of you still. So everybody that's anti-Kirk Cousins, whenever you make one mistake, they tweet at Charge. Like he's defending you all game.
He's the shield for me.
Yeah, he's the shield. And it's weird, though, because we even talked about it on the show this morning that despite your 8-3 record this year, your numbers, you're definitely in the MVP conversation. There's the detractors, and they keep tweeting at Charge. They keep tweeting at you. They keep tweeting at the Vikings. How do you either ignore that or block that out when it just looks like those are people that you're just never going to convert, right? You could win Super Bowls and you're probably never going to get them on your side.
I'm sure a Super Bowl ring would do it, but honestly, you have to ignore it. I think in a way it can be good to hear it because it can motivate you, put a little chip on your shoulder. So sometimes it's good, but man, when I do hear it, usually it really upsets me, and it really puts a chip on my shoulder, probably to a point where it's better to just not even hear it at all.
So where do you hear it? Are you talking about reading it on social media?
When Rosie reads it to me.
Thanks, Rosie.
I just text him every night with all the...
Honestly, I don't hear it much. For example, when we played the Eagles, what Zach Brown had said I never heard until after the game. But honestly, it's just questions. You know, when I sit down and have to talk to the guys broadcasting the game for TV, they'll mention things. It's like, well, I didn't know that until you brought it up. If it's a weekly talk to the media, they may mention something. Or, but I've kind of told my friends and family, like, don't text me. Just keep me, ignorance is bliss. Like you said, it's going to be tough to convert people. And honestly, my game is not one of flash. It's not going to be shed 3 tackles and then launch it 70 yards. And it's going to be trying to be a surgeon, pick people apart. And if it's probably not going to wow the novice fan or the average fan. You're going to have to really, understand football to be able to appreciate when I'm playing well, and that's okay. I guess if I don't win the novice fan, that's okay.
Of course, PA went nuts. 8 wins for the Vikings. Greg Coleman, one of the great 8s in team lore, is excited. Yeah,
Greg wore 8, so that's the joke
exactly.
there.
Holy
he
cow,
let me
what a
have his
thriller.
number.
Viking fans at US Bank Stadium, well done. And then I finished the things off by saying, it's a good day when Kirk Cousins is quoting Michael Scott from The Office during your post game. So
if we had lost, I probably wouldn't have said that.
No, probably not. You had some interaction. You've been on Initials, right?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I think the Initials game is just genius, and not only the concept to do it, but the ability every week to come up with the content and the questions. Fun. That was when I went in live and did it. First thing I said when we got done was, "How do you write that every week?" But he said he gets better as he does it more and more. It's just natural now.
Yeah, we've been doing it for 281 or 282 weeks or something like that. So we're 5+ years. It's super fun. It's our favorite bit. Obviously, these guys, as you saw, take it very seriously.
Love it.
And you're obviously always welcome back for a rematch because
it's
I think
so
you got your
difficult.
feet wet now.
I think the athletes around the Twin Cities are afraid to come on because they're hard. They're scared of a goose egg because it's that hard.
Sure. I believe Thielen got shut out the week after you were on, right?
Yeah,
and that was
tough.
his third-ish or so times?
Right.
Yeah.
I think he's been on 3 times.
Well, one of them you kind of threw me a bone at the end with Garrett Bradbury.
You
that
still
was
got
pretty
it first,
helpful.
though.
Yeah.
You still got it.
So
that's true.
Now tell me a little bit about life. I understand, people ask me what's your rhythm, what's your life like. What's your guys' life like as radio people? Tell me about your weekly rhythm, how you prep, how much you just kind of wing it, and also like when the show's over, what does life look like the rest of the day and the rest of the week?
Sure. When it comes to morning radio specifically,
this is Chris Hawkey speaking.
Yeah,
of course.
thank you. Life is show prep. It really is.
Yeah.
So the greatest bits that happen on our show come from our lives. So I think the most important thing that we can do is
That's
go out
good.
and live. And we Corey and I have kids, and Sauce is out living the life of the old sailor out there having a good time. So we all come from different perspectives. But I get up at 2:45.
Do you really?
Yep. I
So
do.
a lot of your prep is going to be morning of, as
Yeah, for
opposed
sure.
to day,
Yeah.
afternoon before.
I get up at 2:45, and I'm at the station. Then I go work out, and I come back, and then Sauce gets in, and then Corey gets in. But the thing that I think that has worked the best for us, and we've been doing the show 18 years on Black Friday. That'll be our 18th birthday, believe it or not. Is
We're legal.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be legal. The thing that's worked best for us, I think, is to keep it spontaneous and do our own form of improvisational comedy.
Right, yes.
And that's what the show has become. I always say my job is to wake up in the morning and try to make my friends laugh, because I believe if I can make them laugh, then I'm making people laugh in their
Sure.
cars. Go ahead.
Sauce.
What's your rhythm like, Sauce?
I get up about 3:45.
Were you guys all early risers before you got into radio, or did you have to become that?
Yeah, I kind of was. I'm up. Yeah, I get up early on the weekends too. But
Are you
that's
going to
because-
bed early too, or you just not need much sleep?
Kirk, I've been doing radio since I was 18 years old. I've been doing morning radio. So this is all I know, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I'm 48, going to be 49 on Christmas Day. So I hope that I'm a morning guy by now.
Yeah,
I
you
think
don't have a choice.
after a while, yeah. But you do kind of get into a rhythm, I think, though. I have a certain time I need to be by the radio station by. I have certain things I like to check, certain little intricacies, I'm sure, like you do when it comes to your job as well. But I think the biggest thing for all of us, though, is just to get in the morning, specifically for me, and try to be in a good mood. And that was one of the questions I was actually going to have for you, because the hardest thing for me is to, on a bad day,
You got
to not carry that onto the air.
You got to fake it till you make it.
Right. How do you
Same
do that
way.
when you wake up in the morning on a Sunday and you're like, I feel like crap?
Yeah, physically, whatever you're going through away from football that might bring you down, you have to obviously block it out. And we just kind of use the phrase "be a pro." a pro is able to draw the line and still show up and not let it affect their play. And then even, if you lose a game, lose multiple games, coming in Wednesday morning, given the exact same enthusiasm, effort, attention to detail that you would give if you were winning, that's when you got to be a pro. It's easy to come in on a win streak and be engaged at work, but on a losing streak, you find out a lot about your teammates, who still comes to work and has the same attitude. And so, I'm sure in radio it's so different. You got stuff that goes on outside of radio, and you can't, like you said, bring it in. Your listeners don't care.
No, right.
Just like our fans don't care.
For sure.
But you can't fake chemistry, I think, on a football team or in a radio program. And this doesn't just happen by snapping your fingers. We've been together for a long time, and I'm happy to be a part of it as the elder statesman and try to bring some semblance of.
Well, improv is not easy. We did when I was training for the draft, they brought us all kinds of, a speed coach and nutritionist and all these different pieces.
Okay.
Well, they had a coach for interviews, and I thought, well, that's interesting. What are they going to do? You know how they trained us to talk to teams? Improv.
No
They had us
kidding.
do improv comedy because he said, if you can be comfortable in your own skin, what I'm not going to give you is canned answers to give to teams. I'm going to try to make you comfortable being you in front of teams. And by doing improv, that's how we're going to accomplish that. And so literally I remember doing with Ryan Tannehill and Russell Wilson, we would have to stand up and do straight improv. And the first coaching point they told us was the other person is always right. So whatever Russell says, you have to agree with it.
Sure.
You can't make him look like an idiot for what he said. It's improv. He can say whatever he wants.
Right.
You have to agree with it and then add to it. And it was so difficult.
Sure.
And so you start to have an appreciation for people who can do it, and then people who can do it every weekday for multiple hours. It's outstanding.
I remember too, way back in the day, Rosie, you were a big part of this. When Rosie would come in, we would talk such hardcore sports.
Right.
And Star and Hawk and I, way back in the day, way before Sauce was even on the show, when we would go out on the town, this was when like Dante Culpepper was the quarterback here. And nobody would come up to us and say, like, hey, I really like your Dante Culpepper
Your
opinion.
take on,
Right.
They would specifically say, we love the show because of A, B, C, or D. And we're like, why do we take
that's
sports
good
so
insight.
seriously if no one really seems to care? So over the 18 years, we've taken ourselves a lot less seriously. And almost always now when we talk sports, unless it's Vikings football on Monday mornings, we're almost always going for the joke more than like, I'm going to prove my point. Maybe a little bit during the Viking season, but the other 8 months, it's just nonstop nonsense.
Well, it's funny because Jeff Anderson told me this spring, let's go on Power Trip. And I'm like, okay. And after I went on, it was amazing just going around town that day and that weekend, how many people came up to me. Heard you on Power Trip yesterday, and I had a buddy I went to high school with who lives here now with the U.S. Marshals, and he texted me, heard you on Power Trip, everybody at the office listens. And so you realize that here in this culture, which I had to learn, I didn't know everything when I got here, I realized, this is the show, and this is what people listen to, and it's pretty cool to see what you guys have built. How'd you get the name, Power Trip? I didn't even ask. I never learned where it came from.
Sure. We so superstar Mike Morris, who was the longtime long snapper here, he and I started the show 18 years ago.
Okay.
And Corey came in as my intern about 5 months after that, 4 or 5 months after that.
Good intern.
Yeah, absolutely.
It worked out.
Yeah, he started. Sauce started as an intern as well. That's so. Yeah, it's about drafting the right people, right?
Amen.
But we originally were called the Hour of Power.
Okay.
And then we went to the Concrete Cathedral is what he wanted to call it because
kidding. I've never heard
for
that
sure.
before.
But we got sued by a church in California called the Concrete Cathedral. And so we had to come up with a name, and we came up with a bunch of things to vote on, and this was very early in the show, and the listeners actually voted on Power Trip. They liked
a name
that the most.
I think it's a good name. A name that good you would think would have been your first choice, but it actually was a default after your hand was forced.
That's right.
So this could have been, if not for the church in California, it could still be to this day.
Yeah,
Concrete
absolutely.
Cathedral.
Yeah, and that fit, to what Corey was saying. The show was so different back then. Rosie, and again, it started with Sauce and I, and it was basically big time wrestling. People would call in, and he would talk to them about what he was going to do to them with a folding chair.
Right.
And then Rosie would come in, and we would he'd give us legitimacy. Literally, Rosie gave us a legitimacy in the Twin Cities because we didn't know sports. I don't know sports. In fact, they hired me because I don't even really like sports that much, to be honest with you. So they brought me in, and they said, we don't want just a morning show that's like that. So when Rosie joined, people could tune in and feel like they were getting legitimate sports talk, and that helped us a lot.
Well, Rosie's still helping make people
listen,
He's making me legitimate now.
The thing is, Kirk, is that it's relatable. I mean, I was on television for I don't know how many years. And when I started working with these guys, people would stop me on the street and say, they wouldn't say, hey, great take on the Twins last night or the
Right.
Vikings. It would be like, I can't believe you were talking about Daddy's enjoying this or get Rosie going or
It's
whatever.
a breath of fresh air a little
but it's
bit, too.
relatable,
Yep.
and it's just people, it just strikes a chord in them, and that's the beauty, I think, of radio, too. So,
Right.
do you have any, I mean, you probably haven't thought about it, but we talked about it briefly, I think, at one point. Do you look at the potential of wanting to be on one of these network television shows or doing anything
I think
radio-wise, or is it too early to say?
No, I think that's the job that people want. I think it's a pretty good gig. I think quality of life's pretty good, and I think that it's fun to find a way to still be connected to the game without having to grind in a dark room watching film for 12 hours a
Right.
day, which I'm basically saying the coaching thing probably isn't for me, not at a high level. As Josh Klein, our right guard, said, he said, I want to be an assistant O-line coach at a middle school. And I said, why assistant O-line coach? He said, I don't want to deal with parents. And I said, I never thought of that.
Good answer.
I told him he can work on my staff at the local middle school. But we all think about what we're doing when we're done playing. And I couldn't do what they do. That, like I just said, improv, that's a whole different level of humor and being quick-witted and a personality that probably wouldn't be my strong suit. But yeah, calling games would be fun, I think, or doing something, where I can be around the game and be an analyst.
Well, you're very analytical about a lot of things. You think about Tony Romo making the jump, and as someone in the broadcasting business, I've seen guys got to pay their dues. And you think of Romo going from quarterback to the top shelf guy. That doesn't happen very often, and he's getting plaudits for it. So I think about that.
He does a great job. Just watching yesterday, I got home, turned on the Patriots-Eagles game, and he, the Eagles were running their 2-minute offense, and there was like 2 minutes and 5 seconds left, and they were up at the line of scrimmage, and Romo goes, they got to get a play off before the 2 minute, because that basically you get an extra play if you can do that. And then the clock ran down to 2 minutes, and they didn't get the ball snapped. And I thought that's the kind of thing from an announcer that I love, because you're learning something about the game. He's a step ahead of what's going on, and even as a quarterback watching, I feel like he's helping remind me of situational things and important pieces, and that's what he brings that sometimes you watch other games you don't feel like the announcers bring into the table. So.
Well, thanks, guys, for coming today and being part of the Under Center show.
Absolutely. You kidding me?
This
Let's
is
do
a blast.
more. Let's do it next week, too.
Absolutely.
And I got to get on Power Trip again.
That'd be great.
You tell us when.
That'll be fun. Maybe
Friday.
a Friday, an initials game.
Absolutely. After the Super Bowl,
Oh,
come in and
that'd be
show us your
amazing.
ring. That'd be
How
great.
amazing
We'd
would that
appreciate
be?
that. Oh,
You can
it's gonna
come
be great.
come watch Sauce do improv firsthand.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this.
Throw a chair. You never know.
I do some improv, yeah.
You're kind of quiet today.
Well, I don't want these two are more important people to talk to them. I don't have anything to say.
They didn't give him a mic. We got a mic shortage.
That's true.
It's
That's
all
true.
We did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
Chris
They've had enough
Hawkey
of
and
me.
Paul Meatsaus Labber and Corey Cove, thank you so much for being a part of it. And, of course, we'll be discussing this on the Power Trip every single morning.
And Kirk, just so you know, there's always two guys on the Power Trip rooting for you no matter what.
All 4 quarters.
Yep, all 4 quarters.
I never rip you.
We'll be back with more with Under Center with Kirk Cousins right after this.